What happens when the picture-perfect life begins to crumble, leading to a woman's mysterious disappearance? Today on Criminologist, we delve into the enigmatic case of Patricia Viola, a New Jersey housewife whose fate ignites unsettling questions that linger to this day. A New Jersey housewife disappeared after an ominous request of a friend, an uncharacteristic confrontation, and a tripped burglar alarm at her home. What happened to Patricia Viola? And how did her remains end up on a beach 45 miles away? On February 13, 2001, Patricia Viola vanished from her home in suburban New Jersey. More than a decade later, her partial remains were identified after washing up 45 miles away on a beach in Queens, New York. Patricia Viola, maiden name Mari, was a 42-year-old housewife and mother who lived with her husband James and their children Christine and Michael in Bogota in suburban New Jersey, a charming town a few miles away from the George Washington Bridge, which crosses into bustling Upper Manhattan. The family lived in a picturesque home in a quiet neighborhood, and by all accounts that achieved the American dream, Patricia was known for going above and beyond to make special occasions even more special for her family. Elaborate homemade cakes, perfectly personalized presents for every holiday. She was a volunteer librarian at her son's school in her free time. Family and friends remembered her generosity and her love for taking care of her family. Patricia spent a lot of time in the last months of her life caring for her sick mother-in-law and for her sister-in-law Donna, who was staying in the Viola household after a difficult breakup. As much as people praised Patricia's enthusiasm for taking care of others and turning holidays into huge productions, there was undeniably a considerable amount of stress on her. Those close to her say she evidently held herself to very high expectations, and the people in her life had come to expect her going above and beyond. Patricia had epilepsy and normally carried her medicine with her at all times. Roughly 3 months before her disappearance, in November 2000, Patricia experienced a grand mal seizure. Following this, her driver's license was suspended for 90 days at the recommendation of her doctor. This was hugely limiting to Patricia's independence and mobility and reportedly impacted her morale heavily. She could no longer easily do the things she loved, like going to the mall alone to buy presents for her family, which she expressed sadness about during the Christmas season. Additionally, it made family obligations, for instance, traveling across town to check on her mother-in-law at the hospital, even more difficult, stressful, and time-consuming. In the weeks before her disappearance, the stress in Patricia's life continued to mount. Several events were weighing on her heavily or gave loved ones reason to worry. On February 6th, 1 week before she went missing, Patricia received upsetting news. Her doctor was recommending a further 90-day suspension of her driving privileges, extending her time without a license until at least late spring. She was incredibly depressed by this news. Around mid-February, the tension built up between Patricia and her sister-in-law Donna, who had been staying with the Viola family following a breakup. Donna was a smoker. Patricia was not a smoker, did not approve of Donna smoking in the house, and had so far been unable to convince her to knock it off. The typically level-headed and non-confrontational Patricia had been managing the effects of Donna's indoor smoking instead by cleaning, vacuuming, and airing out Donna's room on a daily basis. The day before she went missing, Patricia discovered that Donna burned a hole in the guest bedspread, a move that could have started a fire and put the whole family in danger. Although Patricia was upset, she and her husband decided to wait to address it with Donna until the following day. On February 12th, the night before her disappearance, Patricia and Jim attended a party in Brooklyn, New York, at the home of Patricia's best friend and close confidant, Toinette Fazio Markowitz. When Patricia arrived at the party, Toinette noticed she was immaculately dressed with her hair and makeup done beautifully and fittingly for the occasion. But even then, Toinette recalls she knew something was amiss. As the party progressed, Patricia pulled Toinette into an empty bedroom in order to speak with her privately. Once alone with her friend, Patricia burst into tears. Through sobs, she managed to tell Toinette that she had something which she needed to discuss. But when Toinette pressed her for more details repeatedly, Patricia insisted the full story was too complicated to explain. While she didn't reveal what was ailing her, Patricia did, however, ask two things of her friend. First, she begged Toinette to cancel her upcoming personal vacation, to which her best friend confusingly agreed. Patricia tearfully claimed she would finally tell Toinette everything if the two of them could go away together for a few days. Then, chillingly, she asked Toinette for another favor, to, quote, take care of her kids no matter what. On the morning of Tuesday, February 13th, 2001, Jim left for work at his usual departure time of 6:30 a.m. At 8:15 a.m., Christine and Michael left for school. Shortly after, Toinette called Patricia to discuss her emotional breakdown the night before. Shockingly, Toinette recalls Patricia brushing the situation off completely. Instead of redirecting the telephone conversation to the topic of a gag gift she intended to buy Jim for Valentine's Day, which was to occur the next day, the present she discussed buying Jim was that of a singing monkey in a cage, similar to one Toinette had bought for her own husband. Shockingly to Toinette, Patricia didn't give any explanation for the events of the previous night, nor space in the conversation to broach the subject. Toinette remembers thinking to herself that Patricia sounded tired and seemed in a hurry to get off the phone. Immediately after hanging up with Toinette, Patricia reportedly stormed downstairs to confront her sister-in-law, Donna. Her anger stemmed from the danger brought about by the burned bedspread. This confrontation, her husband Jim would later remark, was extraordinarily out of character for Patricia. Jim recalls that she was irate and screamed, like a raving maniac, MRM. All of this occurred over just roughly 20 minutes between the kids leaving. At 8:38 a.m., Patricia left her house and walked to Bixby Elementary School, where she worked as a volunteer librarian. Bixby was located on the corner of Fisher and Chestnut Avenues, less than 2 blocks away from the family's home and easily walkable. Patricia spent roughly 2 hours at the library that day, spending her time shelving books and assisting at the checkout counter. At some point after Patricia leaves for the library, a local security company got a report of the security alarm going off at the Viola home. First, they tried to contact Patricia, but were unable to reach her. Those close to her say that while Patricia had a cell phone, she rarely turned it on. The security company then tried to contact Jim, who was unreachable due to his being at work. The alarm company then called Patricia's mother, who answered the call and promptly called Viola home to check on her daughter. Finding no answer to her phone call, Patricia's mom left a concerned voicemail on the home's answering machine. The alarm going off also triggered contact with the local Bogota Police Department. Officers from the station performed a visual check on the exterior of the house by walking the perimeter of the property and checking in windows. But ultimately, they determined that nothing looked abnormal and deduced that the front door probably didn't close fully when Patricia left. Such a situation would have triggered the alarm and had happened in the past, so the scenario was not out of the ordinary for the quiet town. Between 11:35 to 11:40 a.m., Patricia left her volunteer position at the elementary school, and on her walk home, Patricia was seen by a crossing guard on Palisade Avenue and waved at a passing mailman. This was the last confirmed sighting of her. Patricia arrived home to the answering machine blinking. She listens to the message from her mother and returns the call. During this telephone conversation, Patricia assured her mother that everything was fine at the house and that she was aware of the alarm situation. Her mom recalls that the rest of the conversation was normal. This would be the last time anyone on record ever spoke with Patricia Viola. Sometime between 1:11 p.m. and 4 p.m., Patricia, by unknown means and for unknown reasons, left her home again. She had no means of transportation and had not told anybody, not her husband, her mother, her best friend Toinette, nor anyone at the library, about any plans to go anywhere that day. According to a reading of the alarm control panel, Patricia performed a reset of the home security system at 1:11 p.m. Likely this was her rearming the alarm system on her way out of the home because, as the alarm had been triggered that morning, a reset of the system was required in order to rearm the security capabilities. Therefore, many assume the mother of two left the house sometime between the reset at 1:11 p.m. and when Jim returned home, which was at 4:30 p.m. No one knows if she left voluntarily or if she was forced to leave. At 4:30 p.m., Jim returned home from work that afternoon to find the alarm reset and beeping at his entry, and Patricia nowhere to be found. As the family only set the alarm before going to bed or prior to leaving the house, Jim deduced at once that his wife wasn't home, but he didn't become concerned until he saw all that was left behind. Although Patricia's coat was missing, she'd left behind her purse, keys, cell phone, ID, and epilepsy medication. The fact that Patricia failed to bring her anti-seizure medicine was the most concerning to those closest to her, as Patricia was meticulous about taking her medication twice a day, especially to stave off future seizures that could further restrict her driving freedoms. Because of the architecture of the back door, the Viola family had to use a key to lock it of the house, which was always left inserted into the deadbolt. Strangely, Jim found the key lying on the kitchen table, which was out of place. Confident that Patricia could have only departed the home on foot, Jim called friends and family while also consulting bus schedules to try and locate his wife. With no luck and having exhausted his options, at 11:58 p.m., Jim, now frantic, called police to report Patricia missing. Captain James Sepp of the Bogota Police Department took his complaint, and over the following days, the local police conducted door-to-door searches to speak with neighbors, consulted taxi logs from all car services in town, and stopped buses to be searched along the main routes. While the community response was robust, it was all to no avail. Bogota Police Department also consulted with Port Authority Police to inspect flight manifests from nearby airports. No jumping attempts had been reported at the George Washington Bridge that day. The Viola family, alongside concerned neighbors and friends, papered the area with missing person flyers. 3 days after Patricia's disappearance, investigators brought in police dogs to search the ground while also conducting aerial searches. Law enforcement kept in touch with area hospitals as well, but no Jane Does nor Patricia Violas were ever checked in. Nothing, no evidence, no trace of Patricia's whereabouts, or even her mere presence, turned up in the ensuing days. Each day that progressed with no news caused Patricia's family to fear the worst had happened. 2 weeks later, frustrated at the stagnation of the investigation, Jim and Toinette intensified their own search for Patricia. Toinette spoke to every drugstore and corner shop located within walking distance from the Viola home. The pair noted that the singing monkey gift Patricia mentioned wanting to buy for Jim was in stock at a Rite Aid pharmacy nearby. Toinette showed the clerk a picture, and although the worker did recall seeing Patricia in the store that day, he had no idea where or in which direction she went after leaving the store. Jim focused his search on local hospitals, as his theory at the time was that Patricia may have had another epileptic seizure, of which amnesia is a possible side effect. But just as police had canvassed and come up with no leads, so too did her husband. Jim was investigated, as the husband or romantic partner is statistically the most likely to have committed violence against a missing woman, but eventually ruled out by investigators. He first drew suspicion when it was discovered that he took the afternoon off work the day his wife went missing, but his alibi of being out shopping for Valentine's Day gifts for Patricia evidently checked out. He also passed a polygraph exam and has been fully cooperative with the investigation. Jim has also continued to keep Patricia's case alive through legislation, media coverage, online discussion, and posters. Some close to the case wondered if there was more to the conflict with Donna, Patricia's sister-in-law Donna. It was agreed by all that Patricia's confrontation and harsh words were extremely out of character. Some suggest that maybe Donna tripped the alarm to draw Patricia home early, was in the house when Patricia returned home from the library. Many close to the case say it is odd that Donna has not participated in any of the interviews or TV specials related to the case. A month after the mother of two's disappearance, investigators received a tip from someone who said he saw Patricia in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, while stopped at a light. The Viola family had a timeshare nearby in Shawnee, PA, but although there was hope that the sighting would prove legitimate, nothing ever came of this, and it is unclear if the witness actually saw Patricia or just a woman who looked similar to her. 1 year later, a man called the Bogota Police Department and claimed responsibility for killing Patricia, saying, quote, "I killed the old girl," but soon the police ruled this out as a false confession because the caller also claimed to have Patricia's driver's license, which she had most certainly left behind when she vanished. Further investigation by the police into this matter eventually proved his confession was a hoax. On the stiflingly hot summer day of July 27, 2002, a left-foot shoe and sock were discovered washed up off the 123rd Street stretch of Rockaway Beach in Queens, New York, 45 miles away from the Viola's home in New Jersey. Rockaway Beach runs roughly 5.5 miles along the Atlantic Ocean, with projected currents making it so her origination was undetermined. Police conducted additional searches on foot and by helicopter, but no additional remains or clues ever surfaced. DNA samples were taken, and the remains were taken in 2005. In 2009, New York sent the DNA sample to the CODIS lab in West Texas. In 2008, New Jersey adopted Patricia's Law after tireless efforts by her husband Jim Viola to get laws concerning missing people passed. This law was to supplementing Title 52 of the revised statutes, which developed a best practices protocol for all law enforcement agencies to follow when addressing reports of missing persons or unidentified deceased human remains. This protocol sets forth uniform standards for investigating missing persons and for cases where unidentified deceased remains are uncovered. The new laws forced officers to begin investigating missing persons reports immediately and required that DNA be secured from the victim's family and cross-checked in national databases for cases open longer than 30 days. By 2010, requirements to cross-check DNA under Patricia's Law were in place. On September 12, 2012, poignantly, the first missing person whose remains were identified through the adoption of this new law was Patricia Viola herself. Her remains were identified by the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, but her cause of death is still unknown. No other artifacts have ever been recovered in connection to her case. With only a foot to go on, no cause of death could be determined. Investigators continue to suspect foul play. On February 25, 2013, Patricia Viola was buried in Hackensack Cemetery, New Jersey. Epileptic seizure or medical emergency. If Patricia had, or was in the middle of, another epileptic seizure, it could explain her erratic behavior in the days leading up to her disappearance. Due to experiencing such an event, it was possible that she left for unknown reasons and then tried to seek medical attention, or perhaps her exit was for medical services themselves. As with neurological symptoms that could arise, she may have not been in a state to contact anyone or indicate her whereabouts. Some wonder if perhaps she had a seizure on her way back from Rite Aid and disappeared somewhere along her route. In a morbid and odd connection to another case, just 5 years before Patricia went missing, in October 1997, a triple homicide occurred in the house across the street from the Viola family home. The incident had been a robbery homicide targeting a diamond dealer in the house. Besides the diamond dealer, 2 others were killed as well. 4 men were eventually arrested for the crime, and their trial was underway at the time of Patricia's disappearance. According to available reports and information, Patricia was not a witness in that crime and had no ties to it. Still, some theorize that she was potentially kidnapped or killed either because someone believed her to be a witness or because of a case of mistaken identity targeting an actual witness in the area. Others wonder about the curious incident with the alarm system going off. It's been theorized that someone could have been waiting in the house when Patricia returned. Possibly, in expounding upon this theory, her return home was possibly interrupted by a burglar or other criminal inside, who then may have attacked or forced her to leave against her will. If she left the house of her own free will that day, either to shop or visit the beach, did she meet someone with ill intentions along the way? Patricia Viola's case remains open up to this date, and it is taken as an homicide investigation. There is a $10,000 reward for anyone who comes forward with valuable information about her death. A special thank you to Reddit u/source common sense for this detailed and informative write-up will help tell Patricia's story. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more gripping true crime stories. Join us next time as we continue exploring the darker corners of our world, right here on Criminologist.